Ladies and gentlemen, this is Claudia Monicelli, and I'm here with another episode from my podcast. And today I have a guest who makes me roll on the floor with laughter. And every time we meet and we tried to record the episode, something happened and we would have to stop and meet again and do it again. And this is the third time. And told him, three's the charm. So I think this will be it. He's a funny man. And I'll tell you why he's a funny man. His name is Izzy Gesell. All right. Izzy Gesell comes from Improvisation Theater. He's a stand-up comic, but the more serious side, of course, everything is serious here. He's an organizational alchemist. That's how he describes himself. And he helps individuals and organizations transform their thinking from something that's quite commonplace to something that is extraordinary. And through his keynote, he's a seasoned keynote speaker, his training sessions, coaching sessions, and facilitation sessions, he offers intuitive, imaginative, and very immediately useful insights and programs for people who are coached by him. He's very skilled at delivering meaningful material in a way that the participants enjoy their time with him. And I said that, I tested that, he makes me laugh and I do enjoy the time with him. Anyway, Izzy, and I know he's listening to me. Izzy was one of the first to use improvisation theater concepts as tools for personal and organizational learning. He's the author of a book called Playing Along: Group Learning Activities Borrowed from Improvisation Theater. And he's also a co-author of the book called Cancer and the Healing Power of Play. And he also contributed a chapter on improvisation as a facilitation tool in the IAF Group Facilitators Handbook. Now, he has 3 different video courses. I will link them. I will write those underneath in my description. And as I mentioned, he is a highly seasoned keynote speaker. He's also trained NASA engineers in leadership. He's helped Aetna Insurance customer reps to learn how to manage their stress and guided global Hewlett-Packard global managers to communicate more effectively. Now, I mentioned that he was a stand-up comedian. He's a former stand-up comedian and also a public school teacher. Izzy was raised in Brooklyn, New York, where commonplace thinking was frowned upon. I mean, you had to think differently, out of the box. And he earned a PhD. See, I'm laughing because he said to me, I earned a BA in psychology and an MS in education and a P, which is one of the 3 PhD. So he didn't get that. And now he's in Massachusetts, in Northampton, Massachusetts. And I'm laughing already, but come on in, Izzy, before I completely fall off my chair.
Hello again, Claudia.
Hello.
Recording is on.
Yes, our recording is on, and it is a pleasure. The third time I say that to you, and I really mean it from my heart.
Third time is a charm.
It's a charm.
It was interesting, if I'm here for the benefits of being able to improvise in daily living, the building up to this particular conversation is put me and you to the test, and I think we did a good job.
Well, we don't know. We still have to finish this episode.
Well, we're here. I would say that the good job is that
yes.
we kept coming back.
Yes, we are here. We are here. Now, there are a couple of things, and I'd like to, we did talk about comedy and how there are so many different forms of comedy. And you once told me that you admired George Carlin, who was a comedian. I'd like you to talk about him. And you would like to ask him if he were alive today. Does your humor come more from the optimist in you or the pessimist in you? Yeah. Who is George Carlin?
George Carlin was an American comedian that when I was growing up, he was very popular. He was on TV. He had actually albums that I listened to. What attracted me to him was he was very interested in language and how it's used and the ironies. I mean, humor is very much about being able to see one situation from different perspectives. So that's why kids say funny things to adults, because an adult has one view of the situation, a kid has another one, and we see the incongruity and the ability to see more than one point of view. And I began to relate to his understanding of how things that happen in our society are not really based on the truth, but they're based on things that sometimes don't make sense. And he would play with language. I think he's the one who once said, you know, it's interesting. How come we drive on a parkway and we park in a driveway?
Yeah.
Now, that's a recognition that you can manipulate things a little bit to ask curious questions. So what attracted, and then politically, he was very astute in seeing I would say the differences between the way people think and the way they act and what they say. And he had a famous routine, which I'm sure is available on YouTube, 7 words you can't say on television, and you know, all those bleeps. So he was a model for me to, and he talked about his upbringing, a Catholic upbringing. He talked about the inconsistencies in religious teaching versus what they say and what they do. So I really was drawn to him as a model for my own life, which was I'm growing up thinking this doesn't make sense, or that's weird. They say one thing and they say another. So
you go on laughing through life. That means
laughing through life if you can see the absurdities and the incongruities of it.
Yes.
If you're stuck in one position, oh, this is the only way it is, then you can't control that. So you get tense and tight. And the reason I wanted to ask him that question about optimism versus pessimism, there's a belief, I think, among many people that comedians are depressed and pessimistic, and that they come from this situation of lack or negativity, and that's the way they deal with it. We deal with it, and I don't think that's true. When I was learning stand-up comedy, when I was performing comedy, and certainly with improv theater, there's a drive for joy in laughter and humor and playfulness. And I think that comes from the optimistic part of our life, that even when things are difficult, we have some ways to bring joy and laughter into our lives. So that's why
you're right. You're right. But a lot of times in stand-up comics, don't they, stand-up comedians, don't they use material at times that is often from their own lives that is depressing, and they turn it on its head to make it comic?
Yeah. That goes back to what I mentioned earlier, that the ability of humor, one of the benefits of humor is the ability to switch perspective, which means you switch emotion. You know, did your mom say things like my mom said, "This will be bad. This seems bad now, but we'll be able to laugh about it later on."
Yeah.
Right. That's pretty common,
well,
right?
Just like us. Well,
just like us.
Twice it didn't work. Oh, we'll laugh about it. All right.
Right. And what that means is that perspective leads to emotion. If we could change perspective, we could change emotion. So I think that what comedians do is they get in touch with the things that are depressing, frustrating, out of our control. And then one of the most common questions, if you watch a comedian, you'll hear he or she put in the phrase something like, "What if?"
Yeah.
So if you think about a standard one about bad airplane food, you know, that is a common problem. And then the laughter comes in from recognition about some other thing. So that's where I think that comes from.
Well, what if I ask you now? What if I ask you? No, I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that humor works in different areas. It's not just going into on a stage and making people laugh or being in a show, but you also made me understand that it works in mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual areas. And so when I heard that spiritual, I was like, I wonder what he's getting at, you know? Well, do you feel like telling us about that?
Yes,
What if?
Yes,
Okay,
they do.
go ahead.
What if I explain that to you?
Yes.
So the spiritual aspect, so this concept of these four channels of processing information comes from what I learned it as the four quadrants of well-being. So when you look at how do I construct my life,
Where did you learn that, Izzy?
I worked with the National Wellness Institute. I was a presenter at the National Wellness Conference for many years. It used to be in Wisconsin in the summer, and I would go to other workshops, and I learned about the different ways that people can tap into this idea of wellness as opposed to curing. So it's not about so much about I get a disease and I want to cure it. The idea is wellness is a way of incorporating the different aspects of your life to live better.
Okay, so these are the four that you learned.
The four that this philosophy and you see it sometimes when people ask you to make a goal setting for the different parts of your life. What are you taking care of your money? Are you taking care of your relationships? Are you taking care of your work? Are you taking care of your creativity? So different concepts have been triangulated into different factors. And this one is mind, body, heart, and soul, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And the spiritual aspect about humor, if you think about it, the phrases we use is lifting the spirits, lightening up. What I mentioned before, the ability to see that there's a different way of looking at life. What is a spiritual approach to life except seeing that there's more than what our five senses can incorporate? Right. You have to trust that there's the word universe, the law of attraction. All of these things relate to the humor aspect of there's more than one way to see this existence at this moment.
Yeah.
And I would just say, the old joke of why do angels fly? They take themselves lightly.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to be flying pretty soon. You and I will be flying.
Right. Hang on.
But not only that, you came up and you gave me another idea, which I found fascinating, because you talk about the functions of humor, and you mentioned it's for protection. It can be used as a weapon, as some form of connection. And distraction. So when I heard that, I thought, so it's almost manipulative, or it can be used as a form of power if someone knows what they're doing. Am I right in saying that? Okay, so just to explain what I was saying, I thought that when I heard that, protection, weapon, connection, and distraction, I thought to myself, wow, it is a form of power. You can clarify this for me, but for protection and as a weapon, I thought it's sort of strategizing. It could be used as a strategy or some form of manipulation. Am I right in thinking that? Or
yes. Humor has powers that people aren't always aware of, even though when they use them. So if you talk about the weapon piece, sarcasm, put down humor, the racist, sexist, homophobic humor, the humor of the others, the different humor in geography. So you're in Italy, Northern Italians versus Southern Italians. In the US, there's California jokes versus New York jokes, Southern jokes. So there's a certain leveling of power that humor serves. So the weapon example is sarcasm. The protection is when we laugh about something about ourselves before someone else can make fun of it.
Oh, give me an example of that.
So you're going to a party, and or let's say from example from my work as a presenter. If I trip and stumble, or if I forget something, I could say, somebody please remind me, keep track of the number of times I trip on this. My record is 3 in a session. So I'm making fun of my vulnerability, right, but I'm also acknowledging a reality, so other people don't have to make fun of me for being a klutz.
Right. Yeah. No, I like that.
And with our families, it's very similar to we can laugh about our own relationships, our family members, but other people can't.
Yeah.
But so there's a defensive mechanism. There's the weapon mechanism. There's the laughing together in relationships.
The connection. Right. The connection. Humor used as connection.
And the distraction is very much about if we're uncomfortable with something, say we're talking about illness or cancer or death, somebody might make a response about the weather or something that they tell a joke so that the focus is taken away from the uncomfortable situation.
Oh, okay. I'm going to take a step back. We talked about the 4 quadrants, you call them quadrants, that you had, and we did talk about the spiritual area. But can we talk a bit about the humor, how it works in mental, physical, and emotional areas? Yeah, that we glossed through that, and I'm not going to get, I'm not going to let you have an easy time here. I want.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The trials of podcasting. Mentally, I refer to this ability to see different points of view. So the more you're in touch with your sense of humor, the more flexible your thinking is. I referred to children and adults before. There's a situation, a friend of mine had a 7-year-old daughter. At the time she was 7, and her daddy had promised to play with her when he came home from work, but instead went right into his home office. And the girl was kind of upset, and she says, "Mommy, why does daddy bring so much work home at night?" And the woman tells the truth. "Well, honey, he doesn't have time to finish it during the day." So the little girl thinks for a minute and says, "Why don't they just put him into a slower group?" From her world, if you don't finish your work, you're put into a slower group.
Right.
As an adult, we can see how that's humorous because we see her point of view and our point of view. So that's the mental aspect. Mm-hmm. And I would just say for jokes, if you think about jokes are examples of shifts in perspective. The punchline is always a shift in point of view from where it started. So that's the mental piece. Physically, it's about tension, releasing tension in the body.
Oh,
laughter and tension cannot exist
yes.
at the same time. You can't be tense and laugh at the same time. So your body just releases.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
I mean, I can understand it. I'm wondering if there's any kind of proof about that. Obviously, it's common
There are
sense.
studies. There are studies, and I could send it to you. There's a lot of research being done into the effect of humor on the body, the humor on the mental aspect, and the humor on the connection, the relationship aspect. Mm-hmm. So yes, I do believe that. And think about it: if you're moving a heavy piece of furniture and with somebody, and somebody starts to laugh, you can't hold on to that laughter. You
can't hold on to
that furniture. Right, you have to hold.
You can't hold on to any of them.
There's even a concept known as nervous laughter, which is when you're tense. It's not about something funny; it's about a release of tension. That's
true. That's true. Yeah, if I think about it.
And emotionally, it's about connection. It either lets us feel closer to people in situation, or gives us distance. We can laugh at some things to release the fear. Whenever you're afraid, whistle a happy tune.
Right,
is an idea of deal with fear by switching to happiness. And it all fits in with the field of positive psychology and optimism. You're looking for the best possible outcome. First, you have to change your perspective, and that's cognitive behavior therapy.
As you're talking, I'm thinking of a time that happened, whistling a happy tune when you're afraid. It was many, many years ago. I wasn't, my husband, before we got married, we went with a group of 12 people in 3 cars from Rome, traveled up over to Spain and then down into Morocco. And we traveled all over Morocco camping. One evening, it was very late. We wanted to get to a certain place before nightfall so we could camp on the beach. And we got there and it was about 11 o'clock at night. We hadn't eaten since lunch. And so everybody, we took out our spaghetti, unloaded the cars, put up our little stoves and everything. And then we ate on the beach with these long tables, put everything away. And then it was time to pitch the tents. and it was black. I mean, really, really black. And when I started becoming afraid, you couldn't see a thing. And my then boyfriend said to me, start singing, Claudia. He says, sing. I said, what do you mean? I'm shaking in my boots. What do you want me to sing? He said, yeah, start singing. Yeah. So I started humming, and it didn't work that much, because it didn't work until I saw 3 white figures coming, like 3 ghosts on the beach. And they were guards, Algerian guards that were cruising along. But it's true. That was one case, but I do. And then subsequently, I did it to my children. Oh, just sing, start singing.
Yeah. Fake it until you make it.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, there's also another area, and I always leave the sex for last. There's an area where you mentioned to me that you use improvisation practices to increase sensual pleasure and risk tolerance and creative play in relationships. And I love that idea of creative play. And I'm wondering if my idea is the same as yours. Tell us about it. What kinds of things do you do?
Well, the connection of improv, first of all, improv is play and sensuality is play. You set up scenes, you role play, you take characters. So there's a lot of aspect of the theater aspect of it. But I think in the personal aspect, in those 4 quadrants of well-being, improv teaches you that if you're with a partner who accepts your vulnerability and allows you to express your true nature without judgment, then you feel closer to them and more willing to take a chance.
I need an example of what you just said, a partner that accepts your vulnerability and so on, because it's easier with an
in
example.
improv, you're taught to do a yes and, which means that you take whatever you're given from the other person and then giving your own opinion. Even if you don't agree, you accept. So in sensuality, one of the hard parts is for because so much of our sexuality and sensual mind has been closeted within us, where we don't want people to see it. Our fantasies embarrass us, or we're afraid that people will put us down. So when you take the improv principles of yes and bring them into the not only the bedroom, I would say your relational life, because sensuality is all over, then you are freer to try more things. So it's not as risky to say to your partner, let's try this, or I heard about this thing in a movie and I'd like to try it. And by being vulnerable and taking the risk, even if the person doesn't want to do it, they may say, yeah, you want to do it, and I'm not comfortable about doing that. It's different than, no, I don't want to do that. Okay. It makes me uncomfortable.
But what is this yes and?
The yes and is a philosophy that differentiates between acceptance and agreement. I may not agree with so if you're playing a game, and I would suggest we play a game to show how it works.
At this distance?
You and I.
Okay. We've done everything else. Let's try it.
That's right. But what you'll see is that in improv, there's unexpected things that happen, and you're trying to direct the story. And what happens is you get a word that you didn't expect, and it goes off in a different direction. Rather than trying to bring it back to where you want it, you accept the fact that that's where it is, and you go with what you got. Let me show you. Okay. I'm going to teach you a game called One Word at a Time.
Okay.
You and I are going to make up a story that's never been told before, and we're going to do this one word at a time. Okay. That's the hard part. Let me get my tea.
I have to get ready.
Yeah, get ready.
I'm ready. Are you going to start?
My experience is that we can't control the story. So it really is a way of trying to build to a place that we don't know where it's going to go, even though each of us has a thought. You start. We can say period, question mark, exclamation point, round out the story. But
what else? Let's leave
whatever. Let's try it. So let's tell a story called The Magic Cup.
The Magic Cup. Okay.
Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You go first.
Once
I
bought
that
cup
was
amazing
But
when
I
drank
from
it,
I
found
that
I
didn't
know
that
I
probably
was
mistaken.
in
My
belief
that
aliens
drink.
coffee, period.
I have to tell you, Izzy, that during that game, I wanted to bring you somewhere in my mind. I had an intention that I wanted to lead you somewhere. And then I saw your face when you started once. I'm not going to give him a pawn. No, not today.
So that's an interesting question. So
yeah.
why wouldn't you give me that?
Well, because it was too, it's expected, once upon a time, so I didn't want to do that. So I gave you what did I say? I
don't remember.
I don't even remember.
And that's an example. So there are a number of things to talk about. One is when I said once, in my mind, I'm doing the easiest thing possible for you, a newcomer. Because once upon a time is something everyone knows.
Everyone, right.
Now, what I heard you say is that you made a judgment about how you're going to proceed when all you had to do was say any word.
Yeah.
So
I did.
So when you said your word, which I didn't expect, that's the difference where I had to accept it.
Yes.
Even though I wasn't expecting it.
Right.
And by accepting it and giving you a word back, we started off on our shared journey.
Come on. What about the aliens? I didn't expect that. Same idea.
Doesn't matter. We're a creative duo right now. We're making up things.
Yeah. So let's go back and say that this is one way. How do you use this game?
In
your seminars and coaching.
And we go in relationships. First of all, when we play, notice the conversation we had about the game, that even though the game was made up, the conversation was real.
Right.
So let's say that you and I we're playing the game, and I would say that if we play these, we begin to understand that if I suggest something in the bedroom and you're not comfortable, you could go, yeah, you want to do that, and I'm not comfortable. Instead of you having to make believe that I know you don't want to make me feel bad, so you may make up an excuse or something, but you just have to be real.
Call in the aliens.
And the other piece, it's a way to practice creativity.
Yeah, I could see
you make
that.
Stuff up. You notice how our minds block the expansion of ideas because we're going towards a narrow point that we think is true.
It's just one word. That is the most difficult. And
it is the most difficult, and it's easy because whatever you say, I have to agree. I have to accept.
But if we're going to keep playing, right? If we're going to keep playing. And the thing is that even though I did say, Izzy, I really tried to steer you somewhere, but what can you do with one word? You really can't. It was in my mind
that's the other point. You have a mindset that's not applicable to this situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess you taught me. I taught you.
Well, the beauty in these games is that real world experiences come up and feelings. The games themselves have no real world consequence. It doesn't matter where the game goes. We could always start over.
But okay, you said that it was about this cup, this magical cup or something like that. And it was a fake story, but a real conversation. What did you say? It was
no real world consequences.
Right. No real. Okay. But it was very real when we're doing it.
Emotions were real. Right.
Oh yeah. No, I felt very emotionally invested here. And I really did want to steer you somewhere, and I couldn't, I couldn't. And then you put a period at the end, and I thought, oh, what is he doing? We got to continue playing.
Well, that's to go back to the sensuality piece. In fact, it's true of all the relationship aspects. If you have a particular goal where you think the relationship or the game or the fantasy should go, you're not open to the possibilities. And the other person may have a different idea. And it's very hard to bring those two things together. But if both people just go along to a path neither knows, you wind up with a place together.
Yeah. Yes. But I'd still have to experience that because I'm not sure.
It's a practice. It's a practice, just like mindfulness and meditation. Talking about it is not the same as experiencing it. You've experienced it. You can play the same game with the same title with me another time. You can play the same game with other people. One word at a time is a very good game to learn about improv practices because it works very well.
Oh, it does.
And you begin to recognize when you're trying to control things you can't control.
Right. It teaches you a lot about the way you think.
Exactly. It highlights. It's like having subtitles in your life. You notice, like, I'm thinking, I want to control this. I want to go there. Oh, that's not a good word. I didn't expect that. What am I going to do now? Maybe I'll do it. And you have this whole subtitle thing.
And here I am with my eyes trying to, and it's not working because you can do whatever you want with the word that I give you.
That's the other thing. When it's your turn in improv, you're always in charge. When it's somebody else's turn, you're always accepting. When I do leadership work, it's very much about teaching people to, sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow.
Just like in Argentine tango. Yes, there's a follower.
It is very much a tango. It's a dance. It is a dance.
Well, now let's get to that because you did mention leadership. And I don't know if you would like to talk about it because you mentioned to me how to become the leader that you would like to follow. And that's when I read that and when I heard that, I said to myself, well, I have trouble, first of all, following, period. So, but listen, this is a game. I thought of it about it as a game. But if I want to learn something, I have to make this up. I have to become, So let's talk about that, if you don't mind.
Leadership is very much about not, especially if you don't have the authority. There's a difference between authority and influence. If you're the boss, if you have a uniform, if you have the title, there's a certain authority that people will follow. If you don't have that, you have to influence people. And the way you influence people, even if you have authority, you don't want to be disconnected. So you want to influence people to give you their ideas, for example, or to take a risk about telling you the truth. The Emperor's New Clothes is an example of, all the adults, nobody wants to tell the truth to the royals except the child. The child will tell the truth. A fool, a jester, a clown in society's role is to tell the truth. In terms of leadership, if you're able to lead and other times encourage other people to lead, in other words, you take their advice, you take their suggestions, people begin to trust you and because they believe you value their opinion, and therefore they're more likely to follow you when you give your opinion. Right. So it's really, when I say becoming the leader you'd like to follow, it means becoming the person that you wish other people were when they lead you.
Yes.
Open, communicative, respectful, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And this is a personal question. If you had a choice, right? Would you prefer being a leader with influence or a leader with power and be a power that be in an institution or a workplace, or an influencer? Which would you prefer and why?
I guess part of me would like to be a benevolent dictator. But in reality,
oxymoron right there. Oxymoron.
An influencer. I would like people to want to follow me and be around me because of who I am and how I show up in the world, as opposed to what I could do to them.
Yeah. Well, I think so too. I've learned that about myself over time. So let's tell our audience where they can find you to follow you. And then I'll include it at the bottom in the description.
My website is izzyg.com, IZZYG.com. Mm-hmm. And that's the central bus station for everything. LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I have 3 LinkedIn learning classes, one on improv, one on humor, and one on building a team.
3 different, and one for each class?
No, it's a course. LinkedIn Learning is video courses.
Oh, but you have 3 different ones.
I have the video that they've produced 3 different ones. One on
Okay.
improv, one on humor, and one on building and how to build a team.
Okay. That's interesting. Well,
Yeah.
I'll be writing that underneath. And so give me an example of your typical day these days. We're in April. No, listen to me. We're in April 2021. It is now July, mid-July. What does your typical day look like? Don't tell me you're on vacation, please.
No, I'm not on vacation.
Okay,
I'm not on vacation.
good.
My typical day is atypical. But generally, I get up if all is well.
Yes, let's laugh about it.
I have a couple of cups of coffee. I spend some time on social media. I'm
Yes.
trying to develop a practice of meditation.
Oh,
So,
wait a minute. Wait, I like the trying. Now this is important. This is very, very important. Now, why did you say trying?
Because I haven't been able to develop the habit. So I do it a couple of days and then I don't do it for a while. And then I say, oh, I want to do it.
But what for you is meditation, the practice of meditation? What does it look like to you? Everybody
I have
has
an app called Headspace.
Yeah.
That I can set to different times. And there's a person there who speaks through a meditation, and I can set the time. So right now I'm on 15 minutes. I started with 5 minutes, and my goal is for 20 minutes. But really, I'm trying to develop a practice where this is my part of my self-care.
And this is because you feel that it will help you in some way.
Well, I'm distractible. I'm procrastinating.
Okay.
It's hard for me to say no to things. So I have too many projects that I want to do because I'm attracted to bright, shiny objects.
So are poltergeists.
And they took my coffee. So, so what I'm looking for is to develop a habit where for at least 10, 15, 20 minutes, I'm present. I'm breathing, and I'm focused on something. Improv has helped me do that also.
This is different, I imagine.
It's different, and this it overlaps in that it's about focus, it's about staying in the present, and it's about trusting the process.
That's the trusting the process. That is a big part of it. Trusting the process, this whole idea of
the process, because you don't, like you saw in the game, you don't know how it's going to turn out. You have to trust the fact that you and I, one word at a time, will create something together.
Yeah.
And
we have created it.
we have exactly, and many times, and we practiced.
Izzy, thank you so much for coming on this.
Oh, you're welcome.
Talk to me.
I really enjoyed it. And
me too.
I'm willing to talk to you again, even when the video doesn't mess up.
Okay, good. Well, let's see. Once the meditation practice kicks in, maybe we can, update ourselves on what we're doing. Okay, that would be a good idea. Yeah, a couple of months. Give us, summertime, and then we'll see how things go in September.
It's a deal.
So I'll remind my audience how to get in touch with you, and what to say. I mean, it was a joy. Thank you so much.
Fun. Yeah, you're great.
So are you.
You're great. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye, Izzy.